The purpose of this meeting is to conduct the business of the Gettysburg Area School District. Board of Directors meetings and committee meetings are open to the public, but not public meetings. All school district residents who wish to make public comment should sign up prior to the start of the meeting and request to speak during citizens' participation. School district residents wishing to speak to the board shall do so only during the citizens' participation section of the meeting. The board will not tolerate public outbursts or disruptions, will not tolerate comments made outside of citizen participation portion of the meetings. All public comment is welcome and will be referred to the appropriate board committee member or administrator, and comments will be summarized in the official board minutes, which will be made available by contacting the business office. If everyone please take a moment to silence your cell phones and electronic devices. Brooke, Kenny is stuck on business right now and will not be able to make it this evening, and Timon and Tim are both excused absences. And if everyone would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, notices and communications.
Sure, I just have one this evening on the HR report, which you'll see in a few minutes. We have an administrator joining our team, Mr. Matt Lobb. I think he's here there in the back. We're excited to have him join the middle school, probably no more than Nancy is. At some point, she'll have one job again. So Matt's joining us from Chambersburg. And has a very varied background in administrative roles in several different districts. So, welcome, Matt.
Yep, welcome to the district, Matt. Mr. Nett, do we have any citizens' participation?
No, sir.
None this evening. Thank you very much. So we're going to go ahead and jump into routine approvals. If I could please get a motion to combine 5.1 through 5.4, that'll cover the agenda. The meeting minutes from last meeting from September 18th and September 5th, and our human resources report.
So moved. Second.
All right, so the motion, do I have any questions on any of those items?
Not a question, but a comment. In addition to what Dr. Perrin said, I also briefly worked with Matt Lobb at Chambersburg High School, and I would tell you we're getting a top-notch administrator, and he will do a good job, and the Warrior team just got better. Thank you, Matt. Welcome aboard.
Any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, so we'll do a roll call. Michelle?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Amy Beth?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So moving on to items for board action. So typically we tackle these one by one, but most of these, actually all of the ones for approval are policy, and we have 16 of them. We kind of went through them last meeting, and there really wasn't a lot of discussion amongst those. So could I get a motion to combine 6.1 through 6.16 for a combined roll call vote? And if there's any questions on those, we can take the questions individually.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any questions on any of those policies, 6.1 to 6.16?
Mike, I have a question on 308.
Okay, so that would be policy, or item number 6.7, policy 308.
Yeah, on the, is there a way we can separate the athletic contract supplementals and extracurriculars from the collective bargaining agreement, or do we have to do that with the next teacher's contract?
I think we'd have to do it with the collective. I think we'd have to do it with the CBA.
I don't know if I understand the question. We have on here that the terms of the collective bargaining agreement may supersede the specifics of and then supersede the specifics of an individual employee contract in certain conditions, and then supplemental contracts All supplemental extracurricular coaching shall be, where was it? I was reading it on here. It looks like all the supplementals, extracurricular, and athletic contracts would be part of the CBA. And I was asking, can we not have them part of the CBA?
And I guess that would depend on what the CBA currently has in it, which
They're
you
in
would, they're in it, yeah. So at this time, I think it'd have to remain included, right? Is that what you had said?
It would have to be, that change have to be made in the next negotiation session
And when is that?
coming up this year.
So are you good then on not separating that? Yeah. Okay, all right. Are there any other questions on 6.1 through 6.16? Okay, hearing none, roll call. Al?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Amy Beth?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
And I vote yes. All right, so moving on to informational items. So the first one, item 7.1, the capital improvement 5-year plan. We have an item to discuss the Franklin Township Elementary partial window replacement.
Right, this item was part of the agenda at the most recent finance facilities meeting. I'll let Josh just share briefly what the item is for and that we'll seek approval for.
Thanks, Dr. Perrin. There was a portion of the windows out at Franklin that were installed in 1986. It's vinyl clad wood window. We have a significant amount of deterioration and rot, so we need to replace the vinyl clad windows. Total budget is $360,000 all in. So basically, at this point, we're looking for discussion and next meeting approval of RLPS to do the design work. Then at that point, we can go ahead and create a bid package and get a competitive bid.
Does anyone have any questions for Josh on 7.1? Okay, moving on
Mike,
to.
I have a question.
Oh,
actually.
go ahead, Michelle.
Do we have to have design? I mean, we're replacing windows. Does there have to be a design to it? Are we redoing them somehow, or?
Yeah, we're going to do full replacement. Part of the design would be taking into consideration the envelope, which includes air vapor barrier flashing to prevent leakage, which is currently what has caused the deterioration of the wood behind the vinyl clad at this point. So in my opinion, I think that's the best path forward, but that can always be discussed further.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on to 7.2. So we have Train here to give a presentation on the HVAC.
Thank you, board members. Again, I was here a few weeks ago. We got into the project a bit, so I'm back today to follow through on where we're at and go through some of the financials associated with the project. Agenda today is really just updating the board and the district as we've been working through this project scope, cost, the economic summary, and then a review.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt. Is there our tech team, is there any way that we can open up the other monitors so our audience can see what he's talking about? Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay. So again, the agenda, review where we're at with the project scope, cost review, economic summary, and then project timelines. So as we've been working through the project and the process with the district and the partners, the development's been ongoing. That'll continue, although we're at the end where we're prepared to present, and we've presented a fixed firm price contract to the district. The schedules are yet to be developed. That'll hinge a lot on equipment orders and when we see that equipment starting to hit the factories, and when we get an idea of when it's going to be delivered for the project, then we'll be able to put together a complete schedule. So that's right around the corner. And then some of the details will yet to be worked out with the district and administration. The not-to-exceed budget is completed. So we shared that with Belinda and the administration last Wednesday. The project equipment, that was approved back in August. It's my understanding that it's at your solicitor's office for final review, and so we're waiting on that. Train and the design team and the partners will continue to work with the district to continue to refine the project as we move forward, but really it's holistically complete at this point. Final project scope and cost they're going to be presented this evening. First one is Lincoln Elementary. So the base project includes all the HVAC upgrade, replacement, modernization. Again, we're converting from one system to a more modern VAV system, which will be extremely positive for the students and the staff at that building. The complete building automation system utilizing Siemens controls. Lighting upgrade and retrofit, we'll be using WattStopper from a lighting control entity. Sprinkler system upgrade, emergency generator, and the fire alarm system, we'll be utilizing Simplex in that. And the base project dollar amount is listed there at $18.9 million. The project additions are still in the scope of work. That includes all the caulking, window expansion joint. There's a lot of painting work and things of that nature. The masonry, refurbishment of the pedestrian bridge, the access path, the water infiltration at the classroom, and the retaining wall repair and replacement, and then also all the IT upgrades, PA system, the clocks, things of that nature. So that is all still in the project at this point. Moving on to James Geddes. Again, very similar, package. Complete modernization of the HVAC, heating, cooling system, building automation system upgrade, again with Siemens. Lighting upgrade and retrofit, again utilizing WattStopper from a lighting control. Emergency generator, fire alarm, again utilizing Simplex. The administration reconfiguration of the office space there, the bathroom, the addition of the ADA restroom, and then the MDF room renovation. That base is 10.3. And the upgrades or the additions there are, again, similar to Lincoln, the caulking, the window expansion, the masonry, and all the IT upgrades, PA, the clocks and things of that nature. And the cost on that is about $353,000. So the complete package, which includes everything, it's a no change order package, all required equipment and materials, all required installation and construction, project design, engineering, project management, all required performance and payment bonds, permitting, Act 129 rebate submission, 179 will be, searching for and trying to grab any rebates, associated with the project. So the total project cost is $30.3 million. The equipment pre-order was that, I was here before talking about that, that was the $3.6 million for the equipment with the long lead times that we really have to get into the factories to get that equipment moving. So the summary beneath that is, when we first started working with the district, we benchmarked the buildings and tried to capture very conservatively some of the energy savings with the upgraded system. So from a very conservative standpoint, you're going to save about $3 million based on energy spend from 2 years ago when we started working on the project. So it's about over 20 years' time. This is really a project timeline. So when we do these projects, we have bring a lot of A-level contractor partners with us, folks that are involved with this. And our goal is to get in and out of those buildings in 10 weeks. So this project timeline is built around that. So at GETIS, the project mobilization would be moving forward November 23 into February 24. And then pre-work would start in May, April, where second shift, we would be getting in and doing some work, I'll say behind the scenes, non-impact to any environment of education, so not in classrooms, not in things like that, but with the time frame and our experience in doing these, there will be some work in some of those non-education impact areas of the school that we'll engage with. Project implementation and construction phase would be when students are gone, we come in, and the sites turn into a construction site, and we're in there for the duration of the summer. Substantial completion is typically, it's prior to school start. We're going to we'll build a schedule with the administration on teachers back, prepping their classrooms, everything, so that there's no interruption to the start of school. Our goal when we do these is we get in, we get the projects done. We've never not met those guidelines to get these projects done and teachers and students back and the community back in their schools. Project completion for that James GETIS, I have October 24. There are some odds and ends that, we'll be doing after the students are back. Again, non-educational impact type things. Think about insulation in the mechanical room or things of that nature. But I typically September, October, we're completing that project completely. Warranties and things of that nature would start at the completion of that, so usually around August or October, warranties would start for the project. This project is carrying 5-year warranties on the training and the equipment and the controls and things of that nature. So it's kind of transferring the risk on a lot of that from the district to train. Lincoln, it's a two-phased approach, so we'll be doing a lot of work in 24 and then finishing in 25. So it's a large school. Similar project mobilization and final development November into February, and then some pre-work starting again in March, April. Again, non-educational impact type stuff, but we need to kind of do that together so that we can complete this project as well. So construction phase 1 would start again as soon as the students are out. We're in. Substantial completion, again, a few weeks before the students are back, we're working and finishing that up. Teachers are back in their rooms, cleaning up and resetting things. Final project completion, again, same time frame for phase 1, September, October of 24. And again, warranties for any equipment installed in phase 1 would be August through October as we'd start that warranty time frame. The second phase, again, we're just going to push it a year. So now we're talking about final development, January, February 25, pre-work in March, again, March, April timeframe, and then project completion or implementation, construction for the final phase at Lincoln would be June. Again, when students are out, we're back in there. And again, final substantial completion prior to the start of school, allowing teachers to get back in their classrooms, and no interruption to the educational process. And final completion, again, September, October of 25 for phase 2, and warranties to start soon thereafter. So it has been a collaborative approach. The district has been controlling a lot and helping us through this process as we work together, simplifying some of the procurement, shortened implementation to assure the district's outcomes and goals are met, achieving that single point accountability in the process mitigates a lot of district risk when you think about the warranties and things like that that are attached to a lot of the equipment when you move forward. And that concludes my presentation. Any thoughts or questions or?
Anybody have any questions for Dennis or his team?
I do. So the HVAC system upgrade includes roofs, right?
The roofs, we're working with Belinda and the administration. That's, it's not included in this budget. That's a separate line item that Belinda and the district is working through.
Okay, I thought that included roofs. I thought that was what we agreed on. Okay, next thing, the lighting upgrade and retrofit you have on here, the company was, it doesn't matter what who the company is. When you're talking about the lighting, is that going to be like you walk into the classroom and the lights will come on? Or is that one of those systems where the sun's shining really bright and the lights are automatically going to dim?
So the company that we're using this time is Wattstopper, which I think is different than who you used at the high school. That was Enlightened. But there's code written around lighting control now, so it has to become part of your project. But we'll define what that looks like, as far as, you're talking about occupancy sensors and things of that nature. A lot of that does come into play, but that's going to be, as I mentioned, some design things and process. So we'll work with the district, the engineers, and the code folks to understand what that looks like and present that. So there will be some work that needs to be done there, but it is a different entity compared to the folks that you used on the high school project.
Okay, but you didn't answer my question. So so I understand the occupancy sensors, but I'm saying, are there going to be lights that because the sun is shining so bright in a classroom that the lights will dim?
Yes, I believe that's all part of that lighting control package, so.
Okay, well, I can tell you that system does not work very well. And unless we have an electrician on staff who can override that, we seriously need to think about that because those systems don't work well. I've been in a building that they don't work. I can take you to a building where they still don't work.
I'm going to jump in here. I think Dennis's point is we're going to meet what the minimum code requirements are. If the energy code surrounding or dictating what the lighting control system needs to do includes daylight harvesting, which is what you're speaking of, then we're going to need to put it in. But basically, at this point, we haven't gotten to that minutia of design, right, with the electrical engineer and lighting engineer to answer that pointed question. But if it's code required, we will be putting it in.
The masonry work that you're talking about doing at Lincoln, where is that in the building?
John, do you want to? John's been a part of the project management and development team.
So basically, that's power washing the entire building. We're going to come along and then repoint areas that require that. We will then be resealing all the brick after that's complete. That's something that didn't used to do 10 years ago, but with the advent of all the moisture and mold and the penetration through the bricks, it's something that is highly recommended that be done nowadays.
Okay, what's the location of this access path at Lincoln?
That comes off the pedestrian bridge back there. At currently, this has not, the design has not been finalized between us, the district, and the civil engineer. But currently, it comes off the pedestrian bridge at a slight angle, and then the access path goes down along the back of the building. At this stage, it's 10 foot wide because we were asked that they may want to be able to move a box truck up in there so for access. That pedestrian bridge provides the only access from the second floor.
And in James Getty's, what's the MDF room? What's MDF?
The MD, I don't know what, it's basically an IT room
Okay.
that we're building separately back, taking a piece of the boiler room, the mechanical room back there.
I think MDS is multiple disabilities classroom, isn't it?
No, that's,
It's not. Oh, okay.
no. It is an IT room where they keep the main gear. And they're moving it out of certain closets in the school and consolidating it there.
Okay.
There's too many acronyms in education.
And I don't know what I should, but I don't know what MDF means, but that's what it is.
That's all I have.
Any other questions for Dennis or anyone on his team? No? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. So we'll be moving on to board committee reports. Tim's not here. The Facility and Finance Committee met last week on the 28th at 4 p.m., and I think their next meeting is scheduled for October 26th at 4 p.m. in the Administration Building. Al, do you have any legislative report?
Nothing tonight.
Okay. And just to wrap up on Policy Committee meeting, the next Policy Committee meeting will be held on Tuesday, the 10th, October, at 4 p.m. here in the Admin Building, and we'll have a whole host of policies again, just kind of like we did, combining the 3, 4, and 500s into the 300s. So we'll be working on that. And I think we'll move on now to program reports.
I'll turn it over to Belinda. Has several items this evening.
Yes, before we get started on the basic ed funding, I'd like to pass around this draft timeline for the budget for the 24-25 school year. Areas of note on the draft budget, there's 3 specific areas which are highlighted. And again, this is a draft, so it could very well change moving forward. Our first area, 3 notations, is November 20th. We will likely have action for the preliminary budget or adopt a resolution. Historically, our board has adopted the resolution not to exceed. It is earlier this year simply because of the uncertainty of how Act 1 timeline is going to play out with the elections and so forth. I'm not sure if you're aware, but the areas with the primary election remains, if planned, April 23rd. We would not need to advance it, but there are discussions that the primary election be moved to March 19th, which is the Senate's version, and then, of course, April 2nd, which is the House version. Either one of those versions require an earlier time frame to adopt budget proceedings moving forward. Now, it will not affect us at the end of it. It mostly affects those districts that are potentially going to the index, over the index, and also seeking exceptions, which of course our district has not. But in order to be cognizant of the timeline, I think it's best, our district has not exceeded the exceptions. So I think November 20th is a good viable time frame to approve our resolution not to exceed. And then of course, some other areas, our goal is to have the district review and the presentation of the audit on December 4th following our reorganization meeting. And then, of course, the other change is in April 15th, we have the adopt the proposed final, which is earlier than prior, simply because May 6th we have the proposed final. You require 30 days in between the preliminary final being posted to the final. And so in order to get those 30 days in without having a special meeting, we are moving the approved proposal final till April 15th. Tax day. I'd also like to mention one other thing. The adjusted index just basically came out within the last week. So GASD's adjusted index, the adjusted index overall for the state is 5.3%, and our adjusted index is 6.2%. Again, that's our adjusted index, and we are planning to be underneath that, so that's why we would like to prepare the resolution not to exceed. And again, the budget timeline is a draft, in action. And so if there's any additional information that needs to be updated, I'll be planning to share that. On to the basic education funding. So some time ago, we were asked, what is it that we actually received on top of the appropriations that were provided? What I'd like to do is just give a little informational session to the board. So basic education funding is basically knowing your shares. The new formula in place are many moving targets. Many moving targets which we have never had before, and it is all based upon how much money is going to be used and prorated into the new budget. So again, the BF formula elements are listed here. It is far easier to, while you're looking at the elements here, it's far easier to look at the BF formula snapshot. Why is it formulated differently? Well, based upon the new money, it doesn't distribute to all BF qualifiers, just in new dollars. And basically the only thing that we're guaranteed moving forward is hold harmless money, which has been set in place probably nearly 30 years prior to like the Rendell administration. The BEF formula is very dynamic. All data points move, it's updated every single year, and everything matters on student counts as well as your LECTI, when I'll explain that in a few minutes. Districts can receive less from year to year, so there is no guarantee that you will receive new funds every year based upon this formula. So to start off with, we use our 3-year average school district ADMs, and then we add in 3 poverty weights. Now, poverty weights are not referred to free and reduced meals and weights of that nature. It is directly associated with the federal census data, and that information is provided. And then, of course, we add in our ELL weight, which is English language learners. Additional resources are to inform to do individualized language instruction. ELL weight is very dependent upon our PIMS reporting, and we typically receive 0.6 weight versus our single year admin. We have a charter weight that's applied to this, which all equals down to the district's weighted district ADM. And the charter weight is determined, again, by our child accounting reports, so it's very important that we have those reports. Also, just to reiterate, the federal census data is from the American Community Survey, and that is completed annually. Then, of course, those are specific factors listed above, which then will come down to, again, the weighted district average, ADM. And then, of course, we have the sparsity size adjustment, the medium household income adjustment, and the LECTI. And then, of course, it will equal the total adjusted ADMs to prorate. And those prorations are basically based on the amount of funds that are provided to the entire state, not specific to the district. So some notes that I wanted to just make sure I share is that the formula notes basically are designed to provide direct resources to districts that most need it, including growing districts, high poverty districts, high ELL, and high charter school cost. It's also to address district geographic and changing demographics, and it's not distributed evenly, and it's not the same every single year. So,
and just to clarify, Belinda, ADM's average daily membership.
That's correct.
Not to be confused with enrollment.
Correct.
Enrollment changes, every 3 days.
Yeah.
ADM is a value that's used by the state for our calculations.
That's correct. And this slide presentation here is just showing where our ADMs have come since 2016. Average ADMs, that is, based upon a 3-year average, since 2016 to 2023. As you can see, it's not a large jump by any means, so we're pretty much staying pretty level on the ADMs. Here is another one of the slides in a chart form. This is our poverty weight history since 2016 to 2023. As you can see, we're a little bit higher. This is the poverty rate at 30%. There are different measurements of poverty rate, one at 30%, one at 60%. As you can see, the slides here is declining there a little bit. And then, of course, we have our charter ADMs at 20%. And you can see the increase since 2016 up to about 2023. Then, of course, another factor is the ELL, as I mentioned before, is one of the weights. This has been on a decline, just a slight increase since 2022, but this is representative of 16 to 2023. And then, of course, this is the most important slide that I like to talk about. And while this looks great to many folks, it typically can be. This slide first is LECTI, which is the Local Effort Capacity Index. And so this represents from 2016 to 2023. As you can see, the 2022 to 23 has dropped. And so this is important to note because this LECTI the measures are comprised of two components, local tax effort and local tax capacity, as well as it combines district local tax effort with the ability to generate local sources. So what does that really mean? Local effort index is school districts or local tax-related revenue divided by the median household income times the number of households compared to the state median effort by households. So it's a calculation divided by the state to find out what your local effort index is. And then, of course, you have your local tax capacity index. This compares school districts' personal income plus market value to the state median of local tax-related revenue divided by the sum of personal income to aid in market value. It is no longer based upon your assessments, is a clear definition to say. It is formula-driven. This is important. If your student enrollment is level or declining, and your LECTI drops below 1, and you can see it is declining, it is detriment to the school because you will receive far less money of any of other factors involved here. So why this is important is because it would seem very contradictory that when your LECTI reduces, it is a measurement to say that you locally should be raising taxes. Now, people say, what? Why? Well, because it's the part of keeping the pace according to the state. It's not necessarily based upon local. There are 4 reasons why we can receive less share, less dollars because of LECTI. 1, we have declining ADMs. Average daily memberships. Our students are falling on the percent of poverty line, and some are falling off the poverty cliff. And then, of course, we have the growing median household income. And failing local effort, again, not raising taxes, not raising it above the minimum, at least to the state level, could also be the reason why your LECTI starts decreasing. And it could be the combination of any one of those. But it is not an easy thing to talk about how much money you're getting from this basic education funding. It's not an easy topic, and it's not easy for the legislators to go through and say, these are the amount of funds that are going to designate, because each school district's pot of money is based upon this formula. And so it could, moving variables constantly, every single year. One year, like this past year, we received more revenue than we anticipated. Well, our LECTI was in a good position, but our student enrollment was still status quo. Next year could be a totally different situation. We could actually be losing money. We will never go below our hold harmless amount, but we can go year to year without receiving any additional basic ed funding. And don't get me wrong, the basic education funding, the fact of getting new money and new dollars is a good thing. It's just not equal in every state and every school districts across the state. And lastly, the median household income, as you can see, this factor has also come down. It is slightly below 1, but this isn't as detrimental as to the LECTI is. So with all that being said, it's a lot of information. Anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to share about it. But here is the nutshell of we have and this is representative of, our governor's budget was $9.1 million in 2022-23, and our 23-24 school year, we've had, the governor said $9.8 million. If you go out to the state's website, it says that we have an increase of $722,426, which is a 7.91% increase. However, it's not a true reflection, simply because, in 22-23, the governor said we were going to receive $9.1 million. We actually received just under that, and we were a little bit low of $106,584. However, if you're looking at a budget to budget comparison between the governor and GASD, of course we received more money than what was budgeted. But at that particular time when we had resources available to us, it was highly communicated that it was so volatile because of course, there was some elections involved, that it was best and advantageous not to do increases to your basic simply and just let the income roll in. And what happens when that happens? It rolls into your fund balance and becomes a part of the fund balance calculation to help balance your budget the following year. So as for 23-24, we did budget $9.5 million. We took a little under 50% of what the governor proposed. And so, of course, we came out to the big number that is in addition to what we had budgeted is $358,657. Overall, over a 2-year period, we gained $252,173, which is a 2.7% increase. A lot of information. I'll be happy to ask any questions anyone has, but I thought it was important just to share, one, the basic education funding. Now, special education also has a formula-driven, but it is not as detailed as this one. But again, the biggest problem with those is it's all about how much is designated for districts to receive new money.
Belinda, thanks for the information. I realize some of these issues are moving targets as they try to go through the process of making this formula fairer. A couple quick questions. The adjusted 6.2 compared to the PDE 5.3, what accounts for that almost 1% adjustment?
I'm sorry, repeat that again, Mr. Moyer.
The PDE base index is 5.3.
Correct.
The adjusted index is 6.2. What accounts? Is it poverty level? What is it that accounts for that?
It's market value income against ADMs. It's a factor of both of those combined.
I was a little confused what you said about hold harmless. At first, I initially thought hold harmless might be going away, which I would be doing a cartwheel down the hallway if that happened, because I think schools with declining enrollment ought to receive less. That's just being fair, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So hold harmless is not going away.
Hold harmless is hold harmless. It stays. So we are guaranteed to receive that amount of money. Offhand, I don't know the exact amount for GASD, but we are guaranteed to receive that amount. But we are not guaranteed to receive any new money moving forward underneath the basic education funding, simply because of the so many moving targets. And it is hard to explain. Everybody is in my years of history, we historically said, oh, we're going to get 2.5% of basic education. That is not the situation anymore, because the only new money that you get is the big pot of money that's distributed across the schools.
And did I also hear you say that whatever new formula they come up with, it may include at least part of old money, not the new money that's being established for public schools, or was I confused about that?
Yeah, I'm not sure the discussions and talks with the legislators about changing the funding formula. I know it was a measurement of trying to get new funds to many districts across, mostly that are needed in those areas. Like there is very many districts that are in high need, and there are some districts this year that are not even going to be receiving the it's an adjustment that many districts receive simply because they were in the poverty level and they changed. Some increased in the poverty level. But there was always discussion, if you'll remember, down around the time when the governor's budget comes out, like the House, the caucus, the Senate, and so forth, they're all bartering as to how much funds are going to be going into this pot of money for distribution. And it takes quite a bit of time to gather these worksheets together for across the state.
And my final thing, just if possible, next time around, could we differentiate between the virtual cyber charter schools and the bricks and mortar charter schools? I'd be interested to know the breakdown there. I think we've been provided some of that information in the past. I'd like to keep a heads up on that.
It's a state-driven formula. Does the state differentiate between the two when placing those values in the formula, or does it treat charters as charters?
It treats charters as charters.
So there wouldn't be a difference.
You're welcome.
And basically, the bottom line is BEF, basic education funding, doesn't change significantly each year. And regardless what they've done with the formulas and what they propose to do with the formulas, given our district's wealth, which is captured by aid ratio, which is market value, personal income, we will not be first in line for new money. That's basically the bottom line, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
One other thing I'd like to share, and also just to put a plea out there we are looking for drivers for transportation. We are not in the particular situation as some of the districts surrounding us that have to change their days and or change the way they're providing transportation. We're not there yet, but we do not have enough drivers to ensure that every child is heading to school on time. We've had some buses that are late. We ask that people be cognizant and bear with us. If anyone is interested in driving a school bus, please reach out, simply because drivers are very important, and as well as the rules of the road are also important. Please do not follow our buses, causing distractions to our drivers. They not only have to prepare and watch the road, they're watching the students, and if someone is tailing them for whatever news reason, it provides a distraction and could be concern of safety and security for our buses. So again, anyone who's out there looking for potential interest of driving school buses, please reach out to us.
Is there any particular, like morning or afternoon or extracurricular that there's a specific need for, or just in general?
All of them. We have now where Mr. Bowling is actually driving the buses, sometimes morning and afternoon, simply because drivers are sick and the contractors don't necessarily have the people to fulfill in. And so far, we've been able to handle them. We've been pulling resources from all of our contractors, but it is at our door, and it is very knocking loudly. So hopefully, we can keep maintaining the drivers that we have, but cold flu season's coming up, and it could change situations for us.
Belinda, correct me if I'm wrong. They have lessened the requirements. They created another lower level CDL for school bus drivers, and I think regular CDL requirements. Is that correct?
I think the only thing they really changed was under the hood requirement that they have to pass. Otherwise, it's can move pretty along. But we have the capabilities to try to get someone certified as quickly as possible, and go through all the training and so forth to put them on. But all of our contractors are looking for drivers, and it could be a number of things, that they're sick, they're moving. We've had some runs that were late simply because drivers were sick. We didn't find out till the last moment, and trying to get the children to school and on time is a feat all of itself. So just to bear with us, please.
We're trying to avoid what you're seeing with other districts, larger districts east of us, where you have districts going remote just due to lack of drivers, that kind of thing. So we're trying to get as many folks on board. So if you like kids, it's a fantastic opportunity to drive them around. We appreciate it.
Anything else, Belinda?
Thank you.
Dr. Perrin, do you have anything for program reports?
Just a couple of items. First, calendar. This Friday, October 6th, is a professional development early dismissal. So it's secondary dismissal, 11 a.m., elementary dismissal at noon. And as a reminder, October 9th is an in-service day, and there's no school for students. And then this is a follow-up to last meeting's conversation. Through conversation and feedback, we did change the title on one of the job descriptions that we shared at the last board meeting. It was shared as construction project manager, so we've changed it to just project manager because it will be projects that are far outside the scope of just construction. So we wanted to make sure that that was clear and didn't have folks thinking that it was just constant construction like all the time. But the job descriptions are still the same. Just as a reminder, we've removed the position of assistant facilities director. So it's the same number of Act 93 positions, and the total move is budget neutral. Thanks.
And one last piece of follow-up. I think a board member had a question last meeting that some of the updated job descriptions were not public available. They were executive content, and I think that was an issue with board docs, and that has been resolved, so they can be viewed online.
Yeah, they would be available on that previous agenda. They should be public, and then also whenever we post jobs, we also post the job description with the posting, and those are always on our website, available to the public also.
All right, and we'll move on to our calendar of Board of Events. Our next board meeting will be held October 16th here in the administration building at 7 p.m. And can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
This meeting is adjourned.